Jake Morrison sat alone at the long metal table in the center of the huge room. The table was built for humans, but everything else in the Galactic Council chambers was made for aliens. The ceiling stretched up so high that Jake could barely see it. The walls curved in strange ways that hurt his eyes to look at. Even the air tasted different here, thick with the breathing gases that 12 different alien species needed to survive. Around him, creatures that looked nothing like humans talked in voices that sounded like breaking glass, grinding metal, and distant thunder. Some had too many arms, others had no arms at all. A few glowed with their own light. One looked like a walking tree made of crystal. Others seemed to be just a cloud of gas-wearing clothes. Jake kept his face calm and empty. He had practiced this look for months. Inside his heart was beating fast, but he could not let them see any fear or anger. Today would change everything for the human race, and he was the only human here to see it happen. The crystal tree creature stood up. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "I am Vex-9, Prime Minister of the Zelani Republic. Speak." For this council today, the creature's many eyes all turned to look at Jake. "Human Ambassador Morrison, we have called you here to deliver our final decision about your species." Jake nodded once, but said nothing. He had known this day would come. For the past 10 years, humanity had been spreading across space faster than any species in galactic history. They had built cities on 100 worlds. They had started trading with dozens of alien races. They had even begun to build a military fleet that could protect their new colonies. The other aliens had not liked this. They called humans aggressive and dangerous. They said humans expanded too fast and took too many resources. They complained that human technology was advancing too quickly. Most of all, they were afraid that humans might become stronger than them. "Your species will stop all expansion immediately," Vex-9 continued. "You have 30 standard days to remove all humans. From every world beyond your home system, all human colonies must be abandoned. All human military ships must return to Earth. Humanity will accept protectorate status under Council supervision." A creature that looked like a giant insect with silver skin leaned forward. This was General Vexbrim of the Korthani Empire. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "If humans refuse these terms, the combined fleets of the Council will enforce them. We have 15,000 ships. You have fewer than 200. The choice is simple." Jake looked around the room. Every alien face was watching him, waiting to see how humanity would respond. Some looked satisfied. Others seemed eager for a fight. Few appeared almost sad, as if they regretted what they were doing. The human ambassador reached down and picked up his simple black briefcase. It was the only human-made object in the entire chamber. Inside were documents that would never be signed, treaties that would never be agreed to, and plans that would never be used. Jake had brought the briefcase because it was expected, but he already knew what his answer would be. "It's very well," Jake said quietly. His voice was so calm that several aliens leaned forward to make sure they had heard correctly. "Humanity accepts your terms." The silence that followed was complete. In all their planning, the Council had prepared for many human responses. They had expected Jake to argue, to threaten, to beg for more time, or to storm out in anger. Had military plans ready if humans chose to fight. They had economic sanctions prepared if humans tried to negotiate. They had never considered that humans might simply agree. "You accept." The question came from a blob-like creature that spoke through holes in its surface. "Without conditions? Without negotiation?" "Completely," Jake replied. He stood up and smoothed down his jacket. "Humanity will begin immediate withdrawal from all disputed territories. Every human colony will be evacuated within your timeline. Every human military vessel will return to Earth space. We will comply with all Council demands." General Vex Prime's insect-like head tilted to one side. "This seems too easy. What is your species planning?" Jake looked directly at the Korthani. "General, we are planning to do exactly what you have demanded, nothing more, nothing less." He picked up his briefcase and walked toward the exit. "Good day, honored representatives." As Jake reached the door, he could hear the aliens behind him starting to talk in excited voices. They were confused by humanity's quick surrender, but they were also pleased. The human problem had been solved without a single shot being fired. In the corridor outside the chamber, Admiral Lisa Hayes was waiting. She wore the dark blue uniform of the Earth Space Navy, and her face was tight with controlled anger. Lisa had commanded human fleets in 3 different conflicts with space pirates. She had helped plan the colonization of 20 worlds. Watching her species surrender without a fight was the hardest thing she had ever done. "Sir," she said as Jake approached, "the fleet commanders are requesting orders." Jake glanced around to make sure no aliens were listening. "Tell them to begin Protocol Omega immediately. All civilian populations are to be relocated within the next 20 days. Full withdrawal, exactly as we discussed in the planning sessions." Lisa nodded, though her jaw was clenched tight. "And the equipment?" "Everything proceeds according to the timeline we established," Jake said. "Every piece of infrastructure, every piece of technology, every single item that we are leaving behind has been prepared according to specifications." They walked together down the long corridor that led to the human embassy section. The walls here were covered with artwork from dozens of different worlds. Paintings, sculptures, and holograms showed the beauty and diversity of galactic civilization. Soon, humans would no longer be part of that civilization, at least not officially. "The transport ships are already being loaded on New Boston," Lisa reported as they walked. "The evacuation of the outer colonies will begin tomorrow." Colony Administrator Ben Carter estimates that the furthest settlements can be emptied in 18 days. Jake nodded. "And Dr. Kim's special equipment is already distributed and installed according to her specifications. Every major colony, every trading post, every single human settlement has been prepared. The devices are so small that the aliens will never find them, and they will remain completely inactive until Phase 2 begins." They reached Jake's office, a small room that looked out over the alien city beyond the council building. Through the window, Jake could see creatures of dozens of different species going about their daily lives. Flying vehicles moved between buildings that grew like plants or floated like balloons. It was beautiful and strange, and Jake felt sad that humans would not be part of it much longer, at least. Not in the way they expected. Lisa sat down in one of the chairs across from Jake's desk. "Sir, are you sure this plan will work? We're giving up everything humanity has built in space. 50 million colonists have to abandon their homes. Our entire fleet has to retreat to Earth. If something goes wrong..." Jake opened his briefcase and pulled out a small device that looked like a child's toy. It was shaped like a robot, with bright colors and simple features. Any alien who saw it would think it was just another piece of human junk, the kind of worthless item that humans seem to love, Lisa Jake said, holding up the toy. "This little robot contains more computing power than the main computer on a Corthoni battleship. Dr. Hansen's team has built 10,000 of them, and they are already on their way to alien worlds in the personal belongings of our evacuating colonists." He set the toy down on his desk and looked out the window again. In 6 months, maybe less, the aliens are going to discover that their great victory over humanity was actually the moment they lost everything. Ben Carter stood on the observation deck of the New Boston Colony Administration building and watched the last transport ship disappear into the sky. The ship carried 300 families, and everything they could take with them from the world they had called home for 8 years. Below him, the empty streets of what had been humanity's most successful colony stretched out in all directions. The Galactic Council observers were pleased with what they saw. The evacuation was proceeding exactly as ordered. Humans were loading their possessions onto ships and leaving in organized groups. No one was fighting. No one was causing trouble. The dangerous human expansion had been stopped without a single battle. What the observers did not see were the small packages that Ben had buried in the ground around the colony during the past week. Each package was no bigger than a coin and was buried so deep that even the most advanced alien scanners would not find them. Dr. Rachel Kim had designed these devices to wait quietly underground for months before they began their real work. "Evacuation ships have cleared the atmosphere," reported his assistant, Tom Bradley. The council observers are requesting final confirmation that all humans have left the planet. Ben nodded and walked back into his office. The room was empty now, except for the basic furniture that came with the building. All the personal items, the photos, the books, the small decorations that had made this place feel like home were gone. In their place were the kinds of things that humans always left behind when they moved: broken electronics. And boxes of items too worthless to take but too good to throw away. The aliens would find these things useful. They always did. Humans threw away technology that other species considered valuable. What they did not know was that Dr. Kim had spent the past 2 years making sure that every piece of junk humans left behind carried a special surprise. "Send the confirmation to the observers," Ben told Tom. "Tell them that New Boston is officially empty of human residents." 3 hours later, the first Alani ships arrived to claim their new colony. Ben watched from his departing transport as the crystalline beings began to examine the buildings and equipment that humanity was leaving behind. They moved efficiently, cataloging everything for later use. The Zilani were known for being practical. They would waste nothing. Meanwhile, in the outer system, Captain Amy Roberts was having her own encounter with alien efficiency. Her ship, the New Horizon, was part of a convoy of civilian vessels carrying refugees away from the human colony on Kepler Station. The ship's cargo hold was packed with families and their possessions, exactly as their official manifest stated. Courtney. "Patrol ships approaching," announced her navigator, Lieutenant Tony Garcia. 3 heavy cruisers moving to intercept. Amy kept her expression calm, but her heart was beating faster. This was the moment she had been preparing for. "Due speed. And prepare for inspection. Signal our compliance with all council regulations." The coordinate ships were massive compared to the New Horizon. Each one was built for war, with weapons that could destroy Amy's civilian transport with a single shot. As they moved into position around the human convoy, Amy could see the smaller inspection craft launching from their bays. Remember, she told her crew over the internal communication system? "We are refugees. We are sad, tired, and afraid. We are not a threat to anyone." Courtney boarding party came aboard with the aggressive efficiency that their species was famous for. The inspection leader was a creature that looked like a cross between an insect and a machine. His metal and flesh body moved with precise, calculated motions as he examined the ship's cargo. "Manifest shows 300 human civilians and their personal possessions," the Corthane said in his grinding voice. "We will verify this information."
Ow.
Amy followed the inspection team as they moved through the ship. In the cargo hold, human families sat quietly among their belongings. Children clutched toys and stuffed animals. Adults held on to photo albums and books. Everyone looked exactly like what they were supposed to be: defeated people leaving their homes behind. The Corthany inspector picked up a small robot toy from one of the containers. It was bright red and yellow, with simple features that would appeal to human children. "Oh, your species has an unusual attachment to these primitive devices," he said. "Children find comfort in familiar things during difficult times," Amy replied sadly. "They don't understand why we have to leave." The inspector turned the toy over in his metal hands, examining it from different angles. To him, it looked like a simple mechanical device with no advanced technology. The quantum processors hidden inside were smaller than dust particles and completely invisible to any scan that the Corthany might perform. "Acceptable," the inspector said, tossing the toy back into the container. "Your cargo matches your manifest. Proceed to your designated exit route." As the Corthony boarding party returned to their ship, Amy allowed herself a small smile. The inspection had gone perfectly. The aliens had found exactly what they expected to find: frightened humans carrying their most precious possessions too. Safety. They had no idea that those possessions would soon be sold in markets across alien space, carrying their hidden cargo to worlds that humans had never officially visited. Back on Earth, the scale of the evacuation was becoming clear too. The few people who knew the truth about Operation Silent Victory, in a secure facility hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. Colonel Pete Jackson monitored incoming reports from across human space. "Serious colony evacuation complete," he announced to the team of analysts working around him. "That's 15 major colonies successfully evacuated in the past week. All special equipment has been deployed and is now in position. Admiral Lisa Hayes entered the command center and looked at the huge display showing human space. Red dots marked the colonies that had been evacuated. Green dots showed the locations where human refugees were being processed. Yellow dots indicated the positions of alien fleets moving to occupy the abandoned human territories. Status of the hardware deployment? She asked. Dr. Kim's devices are now in position on 47 worlds, reported Dr. Greg Hansen, the team's technology specialist. The quantum cores are being distributed through refugee movements to over 200 alien systems. Every major trade route in this sector will have our equipment within the next 3 months. The quantum cores were the heart of the operation. Each one looked like an innocent piece of human technology, a toy, a household appliance, a piece of entertainment equipment. But inside each device was a computer system more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen. When activated, these cores could connect to each other across thousands of light years of space, creating a network that spanned the galaxy. How many cores are we talking about? Admiral Hayes asked. Over 50,000 deployed so far, Greg replied. Another 30,000 ready for deployment in Phase 2. Once they're all in position and connected, we'll have access to the basic infrastructure of every major alien civilization in the local arm of the galaxy. Lisa looked at the display showing the locations of alien fleets. The Corthane had already occupied 6 former human colonies. The Zilani had claimed 8 more. The Regilians were moving to control the trade routes that humans had established. Everything was proceeding exactly as the aliens had planned. They think they've won, she said quietly. They have won, Greg replied. Successfully removed humanity from disputed space and established their own control over our former territories. From their perspective, the human problem has been solved. Pete Jackson pulled up a new display showing the locations of the quantum cores. What they don't realize is that we've just given them a gift that will change everything. Every piece of technology they've acquired from us, every device they've salvaged from our abandoned colonies, every item they've bought from our refugees carries our systems deeper into their space. The display showed the cores spreading like seeds in the wind. Some were already on alien homeworlds, carried there by traders who had bought them from human refugees. Others were making their way through the complex network of interstellar commerce, moving from world to world with each sale and resale. In 6 months, Pete continued, these cores will be so deeply integrated into alien infrastructure that removing them would cause system-wide collapse. By then, we won't need to occupy their space. We'll already be inside their computers, their communication networks, their power grids, and their defense systems. Admiral Hayes smiled grimly. And they'll never see it coming because they'll be too busy celebrating their victory over humanity. The Great Withdrawal was proceeding exactly as planned. Across human space, millions of people were leaving their homes and returning to Earth. The aliens were claiming the territory and resources they had always wanted. Everyone was getting what they thought they wanted. But in the hidden command center beneath the mountains, the real war was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the last human ship left the outer colonies. Across the galaxy, life was better than it had ever been. Trade was flowing smoothly between worlds. Wars that had lasted for decades were ending with surprising peace agreements. Technology was advancing faster than anyone could remember. Even the weather seemed to be cooperating, with fewer natural disasters and better harvests on agricultural worlds. The aliens were calling it the Golden Age. They believed that removing the aggressive humans from galactic society had brought peace and prosperity to everyone. What they did not know was that their golden age was being carefully managed by the very humans they had expelled. On the former human colony of Haven, Zilani Administrator Kellyan was reviewing his monthly reports. With great satisfaction. The crystal being's faceted body glowed brighter when he was pleased, and today he was practically blazing with happiness. Production from the mining facilities is up 30%, reported his assistant, a younger Zilani whose name translated roughly to Bright Shard. The automated systems are working better than ever. Humans may have been troublesome, but they certainly knew how to build efficient equipment. Kellyan nodded his angular head. Indeed. Perhaps we should have taken over their colonies years ago. Our people are prospering beyond all expectations. What neither of them realized was that the improved efficiency was not coming from human engineering alone. Deep inside every computer system on Haven, microscopic quantum processors were making tiny adjustments to optimize everything that Zilani did. Mining schedules were being fine-tuned, transportation routes were being improved, even the lighting in buildings was being adjusted to make Zilani workers more productive and happier. The changes were so small and so beneficial that no one thought to question them. Why would anyone investigate improvements that made their lives better? Meanwhile, on the Corthany military world of Stronghold Prime, General Vex Prime was dealing with problems that seemed to have no solution. His war machines kept malfunctioning in small but annoying ways. Weapons would miss their targets by just a few inches during practice. Navigation systems would develop tiny errors that required constant correction. Communication equipment would suffer from brief moments of static at exactly the wrong times. The humans must have sabotaged something before they retreated. He told his chief technician for the 20th time that month, "Find it and fix it." The technician, a younger Corthony with fresh metal implants, shook his insect-like head. "We have scanned every piece of equipment multiple times. We have found no evidence of tampering. All systems pass our security tests. What they could not detect were the quantum scale modifications that were slowly spreading through their networks. Every time they used a piece of salvaged human equipment, every time they connected to systems that contained human components, the alien technology was being quietly modified from within. The modifications were not meant to cause major failures. Instead, they were designed to make the Corthany military slightly less effective, slightly less coordinated, and slightly less dangerous. Not enough to notice immediately, but enough to matter when it counted. Back on Earth, the true scope of humanity's invisible victory was becoming clear to the small group of people who had planned Operation Silent Victory. In the same underground command center where they had monitored the evacuation, Admiral Lisa Hayes now watched the transformation of alien society. Phase 3 is ahead of schedule, reported Colonel Pete Jackson as he studied the data streaming. In from across the galaxy, we now have active quantum cores in 97% of our primary target systems and 64% of secondary objectives. The wall display showed a map of the local galactic arm with thousands of tiny lights marking the locations of human technology. Each light represented not just a monitoring station, but a potential control point in the vast network they were. Building. Dr. Rachel Kim joined the briefing via holographic projection from her laboratory in Colorado. Her image flickered slightly as it stabilized, showing a tired but satisfied woman in a white lab coat. "The integration process is exceeding our best projections," she reported. "The Zilani financial networks are now running almost entirely on our quantum substrate. They believe they are using their own computers, but every transaction is being processed through our cores." "What kind of control does that give us?" asked Admiral Hayes. Rachel smiled. "Complete control if we choose to use it. We can monitor every financial transaction in Zilani space. We can predict their economic trends months in advance, because we are the ones creating those trends. If we wanted to, we could crash their entire economy with a single command." Dr. Greg Hansen appeared. On another holographic projector from his research facility, the same pattern is being repeated across all the major alien civilizations. "The Corthany military communications now route through our systems. The Rigelian trade networks depend on our processing power. Even the Arcturian science databases are being maintained by our artificial intelligence cores." The scope of what they had accomplished was almost impossible to comprehend. In less than a year, humanity had gone from being kicked out of galactic society to secretly controlling the basic infrastructure that kept alien civilizations running. "Status report on Phase 4, Admiral Hayes requested. Pete pulled up a new set of displays showing the integration levels across different alien worlds. "We are ready to begin final integration on most target systems. Once Phase 4 is complete, we will control or significantly influence the core infrastructure of every major galactic civilization." President Nathan Cole materialized as another hologram in the command center. Even through the flickering projection, his satisfaction was obvious. "Define control for me, Colonel. Sir, we can monitor all their communications, can influence their decision-making processes by controlling the information their computers provide to them, can optimize their economies, and improve their quality of life. And if necessary, we can shut down their essential systems without warning." The president leaned back in his chair. "So if we wanted to end their civilizations without firing a shot, we could do it tomorrow," Admiral Hayes confirmed. "But that was never the goal. Phase 5 is not about destruction. It is about revelation." "Doctor?" Kim's hologram nodded. "The beauty of our position is that we have made ourselves essential while remaining invisible. They need us now, even though they do not know we exist in their systems. When we finally reveal ourselves, they will have no choice but to negotiate from a position of complete dependence." The transformation was happening faster than anyone had expected. On world after world, alien societies were becoming more efficient, more prosperous, and more peaceful. The Zilani were experiencing their greatest economic boom in centuries. The Korthoni military was becoming less aggressive as their systems were subtly modified to favor defensive strategies over offensive ones. The Rigelian traders were finding new markets and better trade routes thanks to optimizations they believed were their own discoveries. "How long until we are ready for Phase 5? President Cole asked. Admiral Hayes consulted her timeline. 3 more months should be sufficient. By then, the integration will be so complete that attempting to remove our systems would cause catastrophic failures across their civilizations, and they still do not suspect anything." Dr. Hansen laughed. "They are too busy celebrating their golden age to question where it came from. Every improvement we make to their systems is seen as evidence of their own success in getting rid of the troublesome humans." The irony was perfect. The aliens had wanted to remove humanity from galactic affairs because they feared human expansion and advancement. Instead, they had inadvertently given humanity control over their entire civilization. The humans had not just expanded into alien space, they had become alien space. "There is one more factor to consider," Dr. Kim added. "The quantum cores are not just controlling alien systems. They are also learning from them. Every day, we gain a better understanding of how these civilizations work, what they value, and how they make decisions. By the time we reveal ourselves, we will know them better than they know themselves." Colonel Jackson pulled up a final display, showing communication intercepts from across alien space. "We have access to the private conversations of every major political leader in the galactic arm. We know their military capabilities better than their own generals do. We can predict their reactions to events before those events even happen." Admiral Hayes stood and looked at the vast display of lights that represented humanity's hidden empire. "Gentlemen, lady, what we have accomplished here is unprecedented in galactic history. We have achieved conquest not through force, but through making ourselves indispensable." The command center fell quiet as everyone contemplated what they had built. In a few months, they would reveal the truth to the galaxy. The aliens would learn that their golden age had been a human creation, that their prosperity depended on human technology, and that their future was now permanently tied to humanity's success. The humans had walked away without a fight, but they had never really left. They had simply learned to win in a way that made victory look like cooperation. 1 year had passed since humanity's withdrawal from galactic space. The galaxy had never been more peaceful or prosperous. Trade agreements that had taken decades to negotiate were now being signed in weeks. Ancient conflicts between species were ending with surprising diplomatic solutions. Scientific breakthroughs were happening almost daily across dozens of worlds. The Galactic Council was taking full credit for this unprecedented era of cooperation and growth. They held regular press conferences to explain how their wise decision to contain human expansion had brought stability to the galaxy. Council members gave speeches about the natural order being restored and the benefits of experienced leadership. What they did not realize was that every word they spoke was being recorded and analyzed by human artificial intelligence systems. Every decision they made was being influenced by information that those same systems provided. Every success they celebrated was the direct result of human technology working behind the scenes. On Zilani Prime, the heart of the Crystal Peoples. Civilization. Senator Rick Small was addressing the planetary legislature with news that would have seemed impossible just 2 years earlier. "Fellow citizens," he announced, his crystalline body ringing like a bell with excitement. "Our economic growth rate has increased by 300% since the human withdrawal. Our industrial output has doubled. Our trade profits have reached levels not seen in our recorded history." The other Zilani legislators glowed brighter as they heard the wonderful news. Their entire chamber sparkled like a room full of diamonds as hundreds of crystal beings celebrated their unprecedented prosperity. "Perhaps we should have removed the humans from galactic society decades ago," Senator Rick Small continued. Clearly, their aggressive expansion was holding back the natural development of more civilized species. What Senator Rick Small did not know was that the computer systems processing his economic data were running on quantum cores. Originally designed by Dr. Greg Hansen's team on Earth, the economic miracle he was celebrating was the result of millions of tiny optimizations that those cores had been making to Zilani trading algorithms, resource distribution networks, and manufacturing processes. Every time a Zilani business made a decision, human artificial intelligence helped make sure it was the right decision. Every time the Zilani government allocated resources, human systems optimized the distribution. Every time Zilani scientists conducted research, human technology guided them toward the most promising discoveries. The Zilani thought they were experiencing a golden age of their own creation. In reality, they were living in a carefully managed paradise, designed and maintained by the species they had helped to banish. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. On the warlike worlds of the Korthani Empire, military leaders were praising their new training systems and strategic planning computers. They did not know that human artificial intelligence was carefully managing their military readiness, making sure they remained strong enough to defend themselves, but not strong enough to threaten their neighbors. General Vex Prime stood for a gathering of his top commanders in the main war room of Stronghold Prime. The massive chamber was filled with displays showing the positions of Korthani fleets across their territory. "Our new tactical systems have improved our battle efficiency by 40%, he announced proudly. "Our pilots are training faster and fighting better than ever before. Our ships are operating with unprecedented reliability." The assembled commanders clicked their metal claws against their armor in the Korthoni equivalent of applause. They were proud of their military improvements and eager to use their enhanced capabilities. However, General Vex Prime continued, "Our strategic analysis systems are recommending a focus on defensive positions rather than expansion campaigns. The computers suggest that our resources would be better used, strengthening our current territory rather than conquering new worlds." This recommendation was the result of careful programming by human systems. The Korthoni military was being guided toward becoming a powerful defensive force rather than an aggressive expansion threat. They were becoming exactly strong enough to protect their own space, but not strong enough to threaten anyone else. Meanwhile, in the trading centers of the Rigelian Confederation, merchants were celebrating the best business period in their species' history. New trade routes were opening faster than they could be mapped. Shipping costs were dropping while cargo capacity was increasing. Profits were reaching levels that made even the greediest Rigelian merchants dizzy with joy. Trader Captain Vorthquin docked his cargo ship at the main commercial station orbiting. Rigelan immediately called his business partner with the latest news. "The new route optimization systems have cut our shipping time to the outer colonies by 20%, he reported excitedly. "And the automated negotiation programs are getting us better prices than our best human negotiators ever could." What Captain Vorthquin did not realize was that those new systems were human artificial intelligence cores that had been quietly integrated into Rigelian computer networks over the past year. The better prices he was getting were the result of human systems analyzing market conditions across hundreds of worlds and finding the optimal timing for every transaction. On Earth, the monitoring stations were revealing the true extent of humanity's quiet conquest. In the underground command center that had become the nerve center of human civilization, world leaders gathered for their regular briefing on Operation Silent Victory. Phase 4 is now complete, announced Admiral Lisa Hayes, as she addressed the holographic images of presidents, prime ministers, and other leaders from across Earth. As of today, human quantum systems control or significantly influence the core infrastructure of every major galactic civilization. President Nathan Cole leaned forward in his chair, his image flickering slightly in the projection. Admiral, I need you to be very specific about what you mean by control, sir. We can monitor all their communications without them knowing it. We can influence their decision-making processes by controlling the information their computers provide to their leaders. We can predict their actions weeks or months in advance because we are the ones providing the data they base their decisions on. And if it ever becomes necessary, we can shut down their essential systems across multiple worlds simultaneously. The scope of what humanity had achieved was almost impossible to believe. British Prime Minister Ellen Davies was the first to put the obvious question into words. So if we chose to, we could end their civilizations without firing a single shot. Yes, Admiral Hayes replied simply. But that was never our goal. Phase 5 is not about destruction. It is about establishing a new relationship based on mutual dependence. Dr. Rachel Kim appeared as a hologram from her laboratory. The beauty of our current position is that we have made ourselves absolutely essential while remaining completely invisible. Every alien civilization now depends on systems that we control, but they believe those systems are their own technology. Colonel Pete Jackson activated a display showing the integration levels across alien space. We have direct access to the personal communications of every major political leader in the local galactic arm. We know their military capabilities in more detail than their own generals do. We can predict their economic trends months in advance because we are the ones creating those trends.
Dr. Greg Hansen
joined the briefing from his research facility. More importantly, the quantum cores are not just controlling alien systems. They are learning from them. Every day, we gain deeper insight into how these civilizations function, what motivates their leaders, and how they will react to different situations. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just gained control over alien technology, they had gained the ability to understand and predict alien behavior on a scale that had never been possible before. What about their military forces? Asked Japanese Prime Minister Akira Tanaka. Can we neutralize them if they become aggressive? Admiral Hayes smiled grimly. Sir, their military forces are already neutralized. The Korthani think their weapons are more accurate than ever. But our systems can make those weapons miss their targets whenever we choose. The Zilani believe their defensive systems are impenetrable, but we can shut them down with a single command. And the Raelians? Asked President Cole. Their entire economy runs on our systems now, Dr. Kim replied. We could crash their financial markets, disrupt their supply chains, or redirect their trade routes. They would be in complete chaos within days. The room fell silent as the leaders absorbed the magnitude of what their species had accomplished. In just over a year, humanity had gone from being expelled from galactic society to secretly controlling that society from within. So what happens next? Asked Prime Minister Davies. Admiral Hayes looked at the display showing thousands of lights scattered across the galaxy, each one representing a piece of human technology embedded in alien infrastructure. Now we move to Phase 5, she said. We reveal ourselves and establish humanity's rightful place as the dominant species in galactic civilization. Not through conquest, but through recognition of what we have already achieved. 2 years to the day after humanity's withdrawal from galactic space, Ambassador Jake Morrison walked into the Galactic Council chambers once again. This time, his steps were confident, and his face showed no trace of the defeat that had marked his last appearance. Carried the same simple black briefcase, but everything else about him had changed. The alien representatives gathered with mild curiosity mixed with annoyance. What could the defeated humans possibly want now? They had been quiet for 2 full years, staying in their home system as ordered. Most of the council members had forgotten that humanity even existed. Honored representatives, Jake began, his voice carrying a strength that had not been there before. I have requested this emergency session to discuss the future of human relations with galactic civilization. Vex9, the crystalline Zilani Prime Minister, barely looked up from his data tablet. The device was running on human quantum processors, though he had no idea.
Out.
If you are here to beg for expanded settlement, writes Ambassador Morrison, the answer remains the same. Humanity accepted its proper place in galactic society 2 years ago. Jake smiled. And there was something in that smile that made several alien representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. Actually, Prime Minister, I am here to discuss your acceptance of your proper place in human civilization. The silence that followed was different from their last meeting. This time it carried the weight of confusion and growing alarm rather than simple surprise. Jake activated a holographic projector that filled the center of the massive chamber with displays showing real-time data from across the galaxy. Communication, networks, power grids, transportation systems, military installations, and economic centers from hundreds of worlds appeared in the air before the stunned alien representatives. For the past 2 years, Jake continued calmly, you have been celebrating what you called a golden age of galactic cooperation and prosperity. Trade increased by an average of 40%. Military conflicts decreased by 60%. Advancement accelerated across all your civilizations. General Vexbrum of the Korthany Empire stood up sharply, his insect-like form clicking with agitation. What is the meaning of this display, human? The meaning, General, is that your golden age was designed, implemented, and maintained by human technology. Every improvement in your military systems, every optimization in your trade networks, every scientific breakthrough your researchers achieved, all of it was guided and controlled by human artificial intelligence that has been operating inside your infrastructure since the day we began our withdrawal. The holographic display zoomed in on specific installations across alien space. Military bases, government buildings, research facilities, and commercial centers appeared one by one, each clearly marked with indicators showing human technology. Embedded deep within their systems, Dr. Rachel Kim materialized as a hologram beside Jake, her image crisp and clear in the center of the chamber. To demonstrate the extent of our integration into your systems, she said pleasantly, we will now provide a brief interruption of services across all your civilizations. What happened next would be remembered as the longest 60 seconds in galactic history. Across hundreds of worlds, lights flickered and went out. Communication systems fell silent. Transportation networks ground to a halt. Manufacturing facilities stopped production. Even life support systems and space stations experienced momentary failures before backup systems activated. For exactly 1 minute. Every alien civilization in the local galactic arm experienced a synchronized demonstration of how completely they had become dependent on systems they thought they controlled. When the demonstration ended and normal operations resumed, the council chamber remained silent except for the soft humming of the holographic projectors. Several alien representatives were staring at their personal communication devices, which had all displayed the same message during the blackout. Services temporarily interrupted by human systems. Normal operations will resume shortly. Crystalline form had dimmed to almost complete transparency, a sign of extreme distress among his species. General Vexprim had not moved from his standing position, though his metal claws were now extended in a defensive posture. You see, Jake continued, as if nothing unusual had happened, when you demanded our withdrawal 2 years ago, you made a fundamental error in understanding human nature. You assumed we would respond like any other species, with either complete submission or direct military confrontation. Instead, we chose a third option that your species had never encountered before. The holographic display shifted to show economic data from across alien space. Trade routes, financial networks, and resource distribution systems appeared, all clearly showing optimization patterns that could only have come from external control. We chose strategic integration, Jake explained. While you were celebrating your victory over human expansion, we were quietly embedding ourselves into the very foundation of your civilizations. It's not as conquerors, but as essential infrastructure. Ambassador Kethvor of the Rigelian Trade Confederation finally found his voice. This is an act of war against sovereign galactic civilizations. Jake shook his head calmly. No, Ambassador. This is the result of your act of war against humanity 2 years ago. You sought to eliminate our expansion through force and intimidation. We responded by making expansion unnecessary. Why occupy your space when we can control it from within? Nathan Cole's image appeared as another hologram in the chamber. The question before us today is simple, he said, addressing the alien representatives directly. We can continue the current arrangement, with your civilizations prospering under our guidance while remaining unaware of our involvement, or we can move forward together as open partners in galactic development. Beside the other human holograms, over the past 2 years, our quantum cores have optimized your economies, improved your technologies, and guided your political decisions toward greater cooperation and prosperity. Your people are healthier, wealthier, and happier than they have ever been. What are your demands? Snine asked quietly, his voice barely audible through his dimmed crystalline structure. Full recognition of humanity as an equal partner in galactic affairs, Jake replied. Unrestricted human settlement and development rights throughout the galaxy, and formal acknowledgement of our contributions to the prosperity you have enjoyed over the past 2 years. General Vex Prime's clause retracted slightly, and if we refuse these terms, Dr. Kim's hologram gestured to the displays surrounding them. Then you are free to attempt running your civilizations without the systems that have been optimizing them for the past 2 years. Of course, removing our technology would likely result in immediate economic collapse, infrastructure failure, and social chaos across your worlds. But the choice is entirely yours. The weight of their situation was becoming clear to every representative in the chamber. For 2 years they had been living in a reality designed and controlled by the species they had thought they had defeated. Every success they had celebrated, every improvement they had achieved, every moment of prosperity they had enjoyed had been a gift from humanity. Ambassador Keth Fier looked at his fellow representatives. How do we know you will honor any agreement we make? You have already demonstrated that you can deceive us completely. Jake's expression softened slightly. Because, Ambassador, we have no interest in destroying what we have built. The past 2 years have proven that human and alien civilizations can work together more effectively than anyone imagined. We simply want that cooperation to be honest rather than hidden. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Representatives contacted their home governance. Military leaders consulted with their strategic advisors. Economists tried to calculate the cost of attempting to function without human systems. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Not because the alien representatives wanted to accept human partnership, but because they had no realistic alternative. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history: conquest through indispensability rather than force. As the session concluded and the formal agreements were signed, Jake Morrison packed his briefcase with the same calm demeanor he had shown 2 years earlier. This time, however, his quiet confidence was backed by the invisible empire humanity had built throughout the galaxy. Admiral Lisa Hayes met him in the corridor outside the chamber, just as she had after that first devastating meeting. "Orders, sir?" she asked, though this time her smile was unconcealed. "Tell the fleet commanders to begin Phase 6, Jake replied. "Full disclosure protocols. It's time to stop hiding what humanity has accomplished." As they walked away from the chamber, the galaxy began to understand the true scope of human achievement. Humanity had lost the confrontation 2 years ago by choice, but they had won a war that most people never realized was being fought. The humans had walked away without a fight, but they had never really left. They had simply learned to win in a way that made victory indistinguishable from voluntary cooperation. The galaxy belonged to humanity now, and it always would.